Ahoy, hoy, everybody. My name is Jake Poppity,
And I am Kate Jones.
and whatever time it is currently, we are here to give our grand presentation of inaccessibility in Williamsburg. It's a little something we like to call Why We Got a Bone to Pick with GGV. Because with what we've seen in terms of inaccessibility, we definitely do. For those who are unable to hear our trumpeting presentation, we do have a script available that hopefully still carries our charm, so to say. To get us jumping and jiving, I'm going to toss it over to Madam Jones. Take it away.
Okay, so one example of inaccessibility on the William Mary campus is the freshman dorm buildings in the Golden Green Village, or the GGV. They lack any kind of accessibility for those with physical disabilities, both inside and outside the buildings. This prevents people with physical disabilities from both living in the dorms and visiting friends in the dorms during non-COVID times, of course. The impact of this inaccessibility goes beyond just not being able to physically enter the building, but can impact the mental health of those with disabilities, as it can make them feel unwanted or excluded, as well as reinforce society's ableist stereotypes about isolation of people with disabilities.
So, why does this inferno even exist to begin with? An excellent question. And lucky for us, we have history on our side to explain. So, from 1963 to 1968, the GGV was originally constructed as the units. And it was originally supposed to house the fraternities of William and Mary, and it did so until 2013. Actually, we even found the secret hazing room in the basement. It's horrible. But when that year came around, they decided to kick the fraternities out and give them even better places to live around the units for some reason. Meanwhile, by some divine idea, they decided to toss the units over to the freshmen, giving it the name the Green and Gold Village, I suppose to easily hide the infamy inside. From this little history, we can already assess the parte, or big idea for those of us familiar with Little French, of the design of this building, which was to place a barrier on to those who were not allowed or welcomed into the brotherhood, specifically those who could not meet the norms of physicality expected of each brother. And as we can see here, the front entrance of the ominous Lion K, Lion L building, set with already some insidious stares of what's to come. So, the design of the fortress. Let us actually take a look at the dorms we are investigating, starting, of course, with the outside. For those who are able to see the pictures, I named this slide quite correctly, because this definitely looks like something of a sinister medieval fortress. Once again, this really is honing into that fraternity parte of exclusion of those not in the brotherhood, especially with every single entrance that requires some use of stairs. As we can see on the top, we have the Griffin complex, already the ominous high wall. Many of the rear entrances, right here, line L, line M, they all require stairs. And for some reason, just to really hit the nail on the head, we have on the side of every building outside stairs. No one really uses them. And the only inclined plane on the line L complex is this little one right here that just leads to more stairs for some reason. Essentially, as can be reviewed by every single entrance, there is really no alternative or access to ramps for those physically impaired that they can use, along with most doors only being able to fit like a single temporarily able person at a time. Even the one minuscule ramp that we just recognized, it only leads to more stairs and more slim-fitting doors. Now, let's take a look inside to see what we are up against further. Inside the lion's den. As soon as you enter the front door, you're already faced with the single indoor staircase that holds the entire building together, as can be seen on the left. And it should be mentioned that there are no alternatives to this stairwell. That is to say, if you are a woman using crutches for a soccer injury and wants to use the laundry, as many people do, you will have to climb down the 8 flights of stairs just to put your laundry in the basement wash. Neither elevator nor dumbwaiter is at your disposal. Only those 8 flights of stairs back and a forth. However, if you are just a visitor coming to hang out in the lounge because your friend picked the shortest straw to live here, then you are going to need that full ability to climb stairs as well, to just transverse the lounge or even sit outside the patio. Uh, Now that we've got the visuals down, let's send it back over to Kat to take a further look into this business.
So, number one, the GGV is not just one freshman dorm building, it's three. And within those three buildings, there are 12 total halls. This means that it houses a significant portion of freshman on-campus students, holding 428 residents in total. Having a dorm complex that houses so many students that is so inaccessible puts a big limit on where people with physical disabilities can live on campus. For example, if you have an impairment that requires that you use a wheelchair or other mobility aid, you can't even enter the building, let alone get to your dorm rooms on the second or third floor or get to laundry in the basement. Another group of people with disabilities who are now limited in where they can live are those who have impairments related to chronic pain and joint issues, such as arthritis or connective tissue disorders, which effectively weaken all of the tissues that hold your body together, like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Having to constantly go up and down stairs to go in and out of the building, to laundry, to your dorm room, etc., can be an incredible strain on the joints of people with these conditions, which can potentially lead to flare-ups and even worse, more debilitating pain that could get bad enough to prevent them from even being able to leave their beds. Furthermore, it's possible for someone to become physically disabled or to have their disability worsened. For example, one could get into a car accident and become paralyzed and thus wheelchair bound, or a chronic condition that was previously manageable could worsen due to the stress of college, just the simple passage of time, etc. This would be a huge problem for someone living in the GGV, as they would no longer be able to access their dorm building, let alone their room, especially if their dorm isn't on the first floor. They would then likely have to move and deal with all of the effort that comes with it. It could also cause negative effects on the person's mental health, as the development or worsening of a disability is likely already a very stressful and scary time, and adding in all of the extra stress of having to figure out either navigating an inaccessible building or moving could be detrimental to that person. Beyond just not being able to live in the GGV, the lack of wheelchair accessibility prevents people with physical disabilities from being able to enter the dorm building to visit their friends during non-COVID times living there. This is an issue because, intentionally or not, it has the ability to reinforce the isolation of disabled people that ableist society already creates. If a group of people are all gathering in GGV, it's not unlikely for a person with disabilities to just choose not to go, rather than try to figure out if the group can meet somewhere else or if they can figure out a way to get into the building. And if they don't speak up the first time, it could become a repeating occurrence that results in their friends no longer inviting them, assuming that they just don't want to come, thus furthering negative stereotypes about people with disability, causing the person's social isolation and making them feel like an outcast.
All of these issues have the potential to make someone with a physical disability feel unwelcome or excluded. Having such a large dorm building that is completely inaccessible to them can make them feel as though they aren't wanted on campus. Even if it's not possible to renovate the buildings in GGV in order to put in elevators, it isn't very difficult to put in wheelchair ramps to at least allow access into these buildings. This will allow students with physical disabilities to get into the building and, for example, live on the first floor or hang out with friends in the lounge. While this isn't a fix-all, it is a step in the right direction. And even small changes, like adding a wheelchair ramp, can make people feel much more included and that they belong. However, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to inaccessibility of the Green and Gold Village. In this presentation, we only covered getting into the building and transversing about, up and down. There is still a whole collection of items to examine, like the narrowest of hallways, the size of bathroom stalls. I'm not a very big fellow, and I got trouble getting in there. And the dorm rooms themselves. Unfortunately, there is only so much time to talk. Kat, would you like to give us the final word?
So in summary, the GGV's lack of access for those with physical disabilities creates a variety of problems. One such problem is the inability to live in the GGB for those who already have physical disabilities, such as an impairment that causes them to be wheelchair-bound or results in chronic pain. Another problem is residents having to figure out moving or navigating an accessible space if they develop a disability or have an impairment worsen. A third problem is the prevention of people with physical disabilities from even visiting the GGB, such as to see friends. All of these can perpetuate society's stereotypes about the isolation of people with disabilities, such as how they don't want to participate in certain activities simply because they are disabled, and then thus making the person with disabilities feel unwelcome and excluded, all of this despite having ways to be fixed.
We would like to thank everyone for joining us for our little presentation and learning about why we got a bone to pick with the Green and Gold Village. Tally ho, and have a wonderful day.